Hey guys, Juan and Angelica here, back for another episode, and this is a new little mini series that we're starting. So you had the idea that we wanted to do shorter videos, like try to do. So I think we're gonna call it "Hey, but did you know?" So in this episode of "Hey, but did you know?", which is our first short, we're constantly working on trying to make like shorter videos that are just clips. Mm-hmm. So on this one, I wanted to talk to you about something that I read this week that I thought was really interesting. So you know the actress Yalitza Aparicio, the one who came out in the movie Roma. Yeah. So she started I wouldn't say that she started some controversy, but she started like a conversation
yeah.
Online. Because not too long ago she did an op-ed about on the New York Times where she was talking about the discrimination that she faced as an actress to get to where to doing that movie. And
I think there was a lot of backlash from people who were actually making skits on her, and they were actually doing the entire, because she's she considers herself indigenous, right? And so so they were doing the full-on regalia, and then they were actually darkening their skin to make it
being
look
racist.
They were, yeah.
So they were being racist, and then so that was one thing that happened. But this is not necessarily what that's about. I just wanted to reference that. But then recently, she posted a comment on Twitter, which was highlighting the fact, kind of putting a positive spin on a word that's kind of controversial to a lot of people. And and I think for anybody who's Latino who's heard the word Prieta.
First of all, can I be honest? I'm a little scared to have this conversation because I feel like there's a lot of weight around the topic of racism. So I think the way we can approach this is within our culture.
Yeah. Okay.
So which is the way we're approaching this conversation right now.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay.
So Prieta, the word Prieta, when we're talking about in our culture and the way we grew up experiencing that word. So to me, the word Prieta,
what does it translate to?
Like dark skin. Like dark skin. So anyway, before we go there, what she posted was a statement saying, for those of you that call me Prieta, here's why I accept the term. And she shared a short poem that talked about that word, sort of reclaiming it in a positive way. Yeah. And I won't read the poem, but I did share it on social media. So, but it's a poem about pretty much saying all the that she's dark skinned and she's proud of being dark skinned because it's part of her heritage and her ancestry. So she's part of representing that. Yeah. Which some people were supportive of. Okay. And some people were but it's still a derogatory term. So I just wanted to kind of have a quick conversation about that and kind of what you think about it, what I think about it, and stuff like that.
It's difficult to have a quick conversation, but I think because we had a small conversation in the car, so this isn't the first time we're approaching the conversation. Right. But you had a different aspect. You had a different turn to it, and then I had a different turn to it. And we've always, okay, so go ahead and say what you're going to say.
Well, no, I wanted you to share what you told me when I first told you about it. When you said morena, you kind of associated morena to the word prieta.
I didn't associate morena to prieta. What I said is prieta is another way of saying morena. So I have an aunt who they refer to her as more, which is morena. And she is of darker complexion, and it's just the way, I guess, it's kind of like a term of endearment towards her or for her, right? And I mean, part of my family still calls her that. She is the darker complected one out of her siblings.
So she's been able to take it kind of as a term of endearment now. Yeah, it's not.
It's not that she's taking it as that, but I don't know. I don't think people have used it as a form of insult to her. Right. And then I told you about the conversation that I've had with my sister. So both of my sisters, they're 2 years apart. And growing up, I remember one of my sisters would tell me how she would be differentiated from my other sister because one of my sisters is darker than the other one. And so they would tell her está morenita, está pretita. And the other sister who was light skinned, because my mom, they actually call her güera. So translate, güera is kind of
Whereas like light skin.
Yeah, whereas like light skin.
Mm-hmm. So
my mom has a very light complexion. My dad has a darker complexion.
Yeah.
And so they would tell her, they would use it as a way to like lessen my other sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so my sister upbringing, like to her, that was a way of like as an insult.
Yeah.
And so
and I think for a lot of people it can be that, because like my sisters are the same way. Like my two older sisters, they're like, one of them is darker, one of them is lighter, and I think my older sister always felt like she was told that she was darker. So like I guess the connotation there was that, you know, my sister that was lighter, you know, was,
well, I guess because people were doing
prettier.
We're doing it in comparison.
Yeah, like I think because they were comparing the two.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see like how that like the negative connotation is there. Yeah.
To say one is better than the other because the other one is light skinned.
Yeah.
And you know, my sister even to this day she still talks about that. She still has a conversation about how that affected her growing up, and so I just feel like that's, you know, that's and I don't want to say that that's unfortunate, but she grew up with that, and so it can be seen as in all honesty, it can be seen as a way to be like, it's a form of racism.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like that's why I think that it goes to like, I think so part of the conversation that also happened kind of around the whole like the whole conversation about race was also like a lot of people were coming out and saying they recognize their privilege as light skinned, you know, even Latinos, because they were saying like, you know, I'm light skinned but I'm Hispanic but I don't necessarily I always get like told that I don't look Hispanic, or I can pass like I'm white or I'm Caucasian. And so some people were kind of recognizing that privilege. So I think there was some conversation around that, and I think that's valid too, you know, and I think it makes sense. But because I think not a lot of people, but I think that there still is that stereotype out there that, you know, Latinos, if you're Latino, you're brown and you're dark, and that's the way and it's not, and people don't recognize that there are like all shade. The Latinos were all kind of all shades of colors.
Okay,
we're not just one
of
thing.
the things I think that people really, it's difficult to have this conversation because because we do respect our elders we hold them to very high regard, and so, and it's our ancestry, and our ancestry has like a lot of weighted value on it, right? And so I think we have to understand that there is a lot of like preference. It's biasness, and that biasness is deep rooted in racism. And so I think sometimes it's difficult to recognize it because it's just been kind of instilled, and so we start to fade that line of like what racism is and what preference is, right? Or what we consider like, oh, this is just part of our culture. This is like this is my ancestry.
And I would say like maybe
I don't know if I'm saying it right. I think I might be missing the mark completely.
I'll say like I don't know that it's necessarily always racism, but like I would say that it also goes back to colonialism and like that whole preference for light-skinned European features as opposed to like the indigenous features. But I think to me like why I wanted to talk about this here was just because I think it's good to have the conversations. I was kind of happy to see her say that, like try to reclaim the word and to spark the conversation, because I think it's like one of those taboo things that people don't really talk about a lot. Like you know that the bias is there. You know that when somebody sees somebody that looks like her,
you tell me things about my complexion.
Yeah, like I think when people see somebody like her, they're gonna like they think like things. You know, they're like, oh, you know, she looks like, you know, maybe she looks like a housemaid, maybe she looks like this, and then there's like always that like, and people don't talk about it and don't admit to it. So I was just like, okay, well, I was like, oh, I was like impressed that she kind of took up the word and started a conversation. But I think also like there's terminology that we use, like people call you gordito, or like nicknames like that can be kind of offensive. But if they're used as terms of endearment,
well, it's difficult.
Like a lot of people will say mi gordo, like when they're talking about their kid or they're talking about their husband or their partner, you know, mi gordo, and it's not meant. Like they have an understanding because they understand that they're not using it offensively. Like the person, like your aunt, like when they call her more, she doesn't get offended. Like, oh my God, like you just insulted me. Yeah. So I think it depends. Like there's that. Like I think it's just like that's part of the conversation too. That there's like different levels to it. Yeah, I think
from the very beginning, when you have an established relationship with somebody, you should understand when it's okay. Well, not when it's okay, but like when there's an established it's very hard to have this conversation.
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
No, but I think that's the point. Like, like,
so like my aunt doesn't take it as an offensive word. You know what I'm saying? But if you use that with somebody else, they might take it offensive. So maybe not using the word would be the thing possible.
But
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I've called you, like, I remember I think I've called you sometimes Prietita or stuff like that, or like,
no, you've
like,
called me.
I've called you
like,
stuff like that, and you know, like, I'm not like
so
insulting
my
you,
skin,
like,
my skin tends to be darker complexion, and it's like I'm the kind of person that tans easily. I have like yellow undertones, and so I tan evenly.
Yeah,
and so I think I don't know, you see that as a.
Well, I told you when I first met you, I was like, you look like a Aztec princess to me.
Oh God, no! What you said was
like, you look like very Mexican. You have very Mexican features. And
that's what you said. Yeah,
I was like, I really liked. She had like dark hair, like big lips, and this and that. I was like, oh, I like her. So I think
that's what you said. So in the physical being is that you like the fact that my complexion was darker, that I had darker hair, I had darker
like
eyes,
sun-kissed skin, caramel skin, like
darker complexion. I mean, you can give it different terms, but it's darker complexion, and that my lips were bigger, and that I just had my features looked very Mexican, whatever that sounds like or whatever that is. But
and on the flip side, when you took me when I went to the store here, what did they think? They thought you had married a Vietnamese guy.
No, he thought I had married. He thought I had married an Asian guy.
Yeah.
So when I took you to the store, the corner store here in the neighborhood, the guy was like, "Oh, you married an Asian?" I was like, "He's not Asian."
So anyway, we won't go too much deeper into the conversation, but I just wanted to share. Unless there's anything else that you want to add.
No, I'm really happy we're having this conversation because it's different when it comes to Hispanic. Like the other conversation of things, it can get really murky really fast. And sometimes, and we're trying and we're having the conversations, and
But so we just wanted to kind of start share this here.
Oh my God, my heart is beating really fast because I'm so afraid to say the wrong things and to like not be understood, or hopefully, you know what I'm saying?
Well, if you don't understand us, if you have questions about what we said, leave us a comment, send us an email. You know where to find us. And on that note, you can go everywhere and find us at Juan of Words is the name of the podcast. You can find us everywhere on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to get a review. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.